What is up, guys? Welcome back to Mainly Movies, the channel where we talk about, well, mainly movies. So welcome back to my Halloween horror special, where all month of October I'm going to be reviewing a whole bunch of horror films. In this episode I'm going to be reviewing the 1968 George A. Romero's classic zombie film, Night of the Living Dead, and the Tom Savini 1990 remake of the same name. So Night of the Living Dead is about a woman named Barbara who goes to a cemetery and she stumbles across a zombie and realizes that the world has gone mad and that the zombies are rising from the grave and they're eating people alive. She ends up winding up into a house nearby, finding a character named Ben, and they try and survive this outbreak.
The flesh of the people they murdered.
Yeah, they're dead. They're all messed up.
Now, Night of the Living Dead is probably one of my favorite horror movies. It's up there with The Thing. It is really, really good. This film, the classic original 1968 one, for me, in a way, it still holds up. Yes, there's a few technical problems and they had a very low budget, but it still feels good and fresh, and it kind of freaks me out still. Now, the black and white aspect of this movie, even though they didn't have to put it in black and white, they did. I don't know whether they filmed it with black and white cameras or whatever, or if that was just a creative choice. The black and white aspect helps it a lot. It makes it really creepy, and when you see the nighttime shots of the zombies just kind of stumbling in the darkness, coming out of the darkness, swarming this house, it gets pretty, it looks pretty creepy. Now, this movie has a whole bunch of creativity, and I've always been talking about that with the two previous other Halloween horror videos that I did for VHS and the two Evil Dead movies that I reviewed. They all have this kind of creativity, and this movie does, and the first Evil Dead movie has that low budget feeling like this movie does as well. But George A. Romero just had this idea, and he wanted to recreate and just kind of reimagine the kind of zombie, like the zombie movies, and just the way that they're made is just really cool. He kind of did a whole bunch of new things that people at the time hadn't seen, like zombies were just kind of mindless creatures raising from the dead who kind of eat brains, and that's what, you know, people knew them as, but he kind of made them a bit more of the zombies that we know today. Yes, they're still kind of slow moving, and in the remake they even say like we could just walk around them, but the whole thing of the zombies are eating people, they're not eating the brains, and also the whole biting thing, I'm pretty sure, came about with this film. If you get bitten by a zombie, you turn into one. Although I think that might have happened beforehand. I'm not really sure. But at the time, this movie was pretty gruesome and grim. And another thing about this movie, it was probably one of the first movies, and a lot of the typical audiences in 1968 weren't used of the hero being black as well, but also the hero dying at the end of the film. That wasn't a big thing back then. People looked at that and they were like, well, no, because at the end of the film, spoilers, but it's been out for a while, at the end of the film, the character Ben is in the house and he gets shot, basically. There's sort of a similar premise to that in the remake, but I'll get into that. This movie is really good. I have a lot of positives of the movie. The creativity, obviously. It's written well, but there's some scenes that they kind of repeat themselves, and my biggest issue with the film is that the second act is really, really slow. Like, it's sort of unbearably slow. And I watched this movie as a kid, and I rewatched it, and I thought to myself, and I wondered how I actually sat through this. But when the zombie scenes, and that's the scenes that I enjoyed when I was a kid, was the scenes where the zombies were, you know, eating people and stuff like that. And I like that scene. I liked all that stuff, and the movie delivers on that note. There was no real massive tension in this movie. I mean, with the zombies coming towards the house, yes, there was a bit of tension there, but I would have liked to seen a bit more tension between the characters. It's kind of just like them talking to each other and all that, and yeah, I kind of wish there was a bit more tension. But overall, if you haven't seen Night of the Living Dead, it is a good classic horror film. It's a terrific movie to watch around Halloween, and I love watching it around Halloween. It's really good. Creativity, out of 10, I'm probably going to have to give it a 7 or an 8. And for its scariness, it's not scary because it's old, so it's kind of hard to say. For me, at least, I'd probably give it about a 5 for scariness. It only gets that much because those shots of them kind of walking around in the dark are pretty generally scary, and overall the film itself, I feel like because of the creativity, it kind of elevates it. And as for a film for that time, with the budget they had, I'd probably give it about a 9. It's one of my favorite horror movies, especially to watch around this time. So definitely check out the 1968 George A. Romero's classic zombie film, Night of the Living Dead. Anyway, let's get on to reviewing the Night of the Living Dead 1990 remake, directed by Tom Savini.
They're coming to get you, Barbara.
So the 1990s Night of the Living Dead, directed by Tom Savini, has basically the same premise of the first movie. It's about Barbara who goes to see her mother's grave with, I'm pretty sure it was her brother, and they stumble across a zombie, and she ends up winding in a house that's, it's basically the same premise, although this time they had a bit more of a budget, and yeah.
Now, they're running for their lives.
Biologists in Stockton, California have released reports focusing on the phenomenon, specifically on that trance-like state.
Every shelter is becoming a trap.
I'm pretty sure, though, correct me if I'm wrong, but I'm pretty sure this is the only movie Tom Savini has directed. Tom Savini, if you don't know, is mainly known for his practical effects that he's done for movies and creatures and monsters that he does. I think he even has his own school, basically, for like makeup effects. It looks all good, and I can tell that he used a lot of his own makeup and practical effects for this movie, because that's probably the biggest positive of this film is the practical effects. It's really good. It's really gory. There's a couple of ones there was one where a zombie gets hit, he gets flying, and you see his body and his legs are kind of thing. And all the zombies as well, they put effort into making them look pretty creepy. Another positive about this film, and was a negative with my other film, is there is tension between these characters, and it's really good when you get to see the character Cooper, I think his name, and Ben, who is played by Tony Todd, who is amazing from Candyman, obviously. Their kind of back and forth argument and their confrontation is awesome to watch. I've found it really entertaining when it doesn't show the action going on outside with the zombies. You're contained inside with these characters kind of yelling at each other and all that, and I really enjoyed it. But sadly, that's all this movie has, really. The rest of the movie is practically the same. The only thing that it changes up is the ending, and I didn't really like the ending. I thought the ending in the original was perfectly fine. I feel like it's a bit more hard to watch, the original one. It's a bit more horrifying when you see your hero die like that, basically. In this one, they make Barbara sort of like a Sarah Connor kind of chick, like she's got like the gun belt and all that, which to me I didn't really like. I liked Barbara being that kind of the helpless woman, and she needs that helping hand, and she was like that at first, and that's when I liked her character, and the actress that played her in the film was fine. But then she kind of turns into like Rambo Barbara, she's like taking them out with guns, and I don't know, I really wish they kind of kept the same characteristics. I appreciate them trying to do something different. Now, to get into the ending, she basically runs off and she finds this camp of like hillbilly guys, and they're just burning bodies, and then they end up going back to the house, and and Ben goes into the basement, which, if you've seen the original, which I'm assuming most of you have, you know that's the little girl that's down in the basement with the mum, and Cooper is bitten by a zombie, and they think she's just sick, but then she comes back as a zombie. Anyway, Ben ends up dying, and he comes back. He's in the basement, he comes back, and they open up the door, and he's a zombie. They kill him, and then Cooper comes down at the end, and he's like... And this kind of makes Barbara even worse of a character, because Cooper's like, oh, thank God, you brought help, blah, 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 and then she just straight up shoots him in the head. And although it wasn't that bad, but I thought, me personally, I thought there was going to be more after that, because it kind of just ends with her staring at them burning these bodies. I'm expecting her to go up to them and say something like, this is wrong, or something like that, something that her character seems like she would do, but she doesn't, and it's a bit weird, and I didn't really like it that much. But I do appreciate Tom Savini's attempt of recreating this movie and trying to do something different. But I just didn't, I felt like the whole third act of the movie wasn't my cup of tea. But the deaths in this movie, they're awesome to watch. The practical effects is really good. And I only watched it for the first time last night. But I feel like I can watch this movie in Halloweens, like in further Halloweens to come. I would probably end up watching this movie as well as the original. But this is a perfectly fine remake. I appreciate what they were trying to do, but it just didn't really work for me. I like the practical effects, and I like Tom Savini's direction that he went with the film. But yeah. Anyway, creativity, it's fine. Creativity probably about a 4 because, you know, they had a budget and they could actually, they just kind of kept the same idea except for that third act, which is sort of creative. But on the kill side, it's really gory, scary. It's pretty creepy. There's a few jump scares at the start. It's pretty creepy. I'd say this movie, it'd probably get, for me, it'd probably get about an 8 or a 9 for tension, because the tension in this movie is really good and they really did a good job at building suspense. Yeah, I enjoyed it in that kind of aspect. But overall, the movie would probably be about, I don't know, maybe a 6 for me. I didn't mind it. It was okay. It was just kind of slightly above average. Anyway, so there's my Halloween horror special review on the 2 Night of the Living Dead movies, the remake and the original. So just quickly, there's going to be a delay on my Zombieland 2 review, the Zombieland Double Tap review. I'm going to be doing that sort of towards the end of this week, because that's when I'm going to go see it. I was meant to see it today actually, but I didn't end up going to go see it. But instead, next week I'm going to be very busy making videos. I'm going to be doing two Halloween horror specials, one for The Thing and one for Carrie. One will be during the middle of the week sometime, one will be at the end when I do my Zombieland review. But during the middle of the week, sorry about the barking as well, during the middle of the week I'm going to be doing a complete series review on Breaking Bad, because I just finished watching it just then. I just finished watching the last episode. It's the first time I watched it. I'm not going to say anything about it because you might not have seen it, and also I want to kind of save everything for the review. But tomorrow night I'm going to be watching El Camino, and midway through this week I'm going to be reviewing that as well. Definitely stay tuned to the channel. There's a lot coming this week. So yeah. So guys, thank you for watching the video. If you enjoyed the video, please leave a like and subscribe, and I hope to see you guys in the next video. So stay tuned and I'll see you guys next time.